For figure P2-3, we have another pretty much standard sketch. One of the things that we haven't gone into is starting off with a block and removing material. So from a manufacturing standpoint, if I wanted to illustrate the order of operations or going through a sequence. Let's see, this is an inch part, and we'll open up the sketch. Then one of our techniques could be to start our stock material, and this is pretty much still finished to size. If we needed to add material to illustrate oversize, one of our issues would be 6-inch material probably isn't going to be, oh, that's interesting, it says 2-3 is in millimeters, so this is a really small part. Alright, so that being the case, let's fly that back in and double check. Yeah, 2-3 in millimeters, so 6 millimeters would be just a little bit under 1/4 of an inch, and somehow that doesn't line up quite right, but we'll go with it. All right, so that being the case, if we do the edit document units, then we'll see the numbers shift. If I go directly into millimeters, grams, and seconds, then it's going to close the sketch and put me in out in the into the feature tree, and I'm going to have to right click and edit the sketch again. Alright, so quite a bit bigger numbers. So let's go 3.5 millimeters by 6 millimeters, and probably don't need that 3 decimal places for this mix, and then we'll zoom to fit. Alright, so since it was quite a bit larger, and maybe the extension lines, it will still kind of zoom to fit a little bit larger than I would have expected until, well, let's see what it does now. Well, pretty much is going to that first scale. Alright, so since I didn't have a bunch of interior geometry, this doesn't get too crazy on the scaling. We don't have, it doesn't look like they gave us a thickness. So given that we're in such a small scale, I'm thinking maybe a millimeter is going to be more than enough, and maybe even too much. Alright, so let's go with the size and do a Control-1. Alright, so in this case, if for whatever reason, oh, and I missed the, I grabbed the corner. Alright, so in this case I'm going to be able to delete that relation. Since it drags out and away, I'm going to reapply it by getting it close to the edge and letting it find that coincident. And then we'll go 2 millimeters by 0.5, and the depth is 0.75. Alright, and then we can extrude cut, and we'll give this through all or up to next. Alright, so it makes the first cut. And I guess the my point here, or the takeaway, is that you don't have to include everything in one sketch. You can build it out however makes sense, or whatever your your desired outcome is for this this part. So let's go 1.5. Alright, and we're picking up the edges just like they were sketch geometry in this sketch. They are perfectly valid to drive our geometry. Alright, so it doesn't necessarily, both of these sketches I closed. So let's see, 0.75 deep. And then we're 1.5 inches from the outside, so had something pre-selected there, or I didn't complete my dimensions. So let's try that again, and OK. And then in the order, I'll go with the edge so it clears the other two. And 1.5, and then this becomes an extruded cut. Alright, so blind end condition, we have all of our end conditions. Alright, so those will be 2 through cuts. And then I can pick on the face again and sketch. Alright, and so both of these were closed contours. If I decide that I want to do an open contour, that's fine. I just can't do 2 open contours. Maybe if I connected them, it would be able to calculate the geometry, so I'd have to draw a line over, up, over, and down, and then tell it that I'm cutting to the outside of the geometry. So we'll do this again, so 0.5 and 1.75. And then on the, when I go to make the extruded cut, on the direction, I'm only going to get blind, through all, and through all both. Alright, so depending on where this sketch originates from and what I'm able to generate, we'll go with through all, and it kind of defaults to through all both. Alright, or if it was a blind end condition, then we could set a depth into the end of the part. Alright, so there are some restrictions to those open profiles. And then that would be, I didn't pay attention to my arrow, so it removed the material. We're going to right click, go back in and edit the feature, and the little arrow here is showing me the side to cut. I can either click on that arrow, and notice that the checkbox over here goes to a check condition, flip side to cut. Alright, so if I do the checkbox, I'll see that go back and forth, and now I have the correct direction for the cut. And then the last one, same thing. If I want to make it an open profile, then we can include the geometry, 2.0, and a depth of 1 inch. Alright, so one of the ways that I can check that this is an open profile is if I right click and I select the chain, it highlights in blue and goes to the 3 sides that I drew, and not to the 4th side that would complete the rectangle. So once again, when I'm using a profile, an open profile, I want to make sure the direction of the cut. Alright, so I want to make sure that I'm cutting the material that I need to remove, and then this is going to be a through all. So the only thing when they added the blind over the last couple of versions into the open profile is it would be nice if it still defaulted to through all and you only had to change the blind end condition when you need it. Alright, so there's our part for P2-3. We'll save it and be ready for the next.